It makes me wonder, what other technologies could we do this with? And who's holding it back? Why are we doing this? Clearly, the answer is money, and this whole banking thing that I've been talking about for a while is a key component to it. It's very complicated, and we need to have like an actual financier or financial specialist or somebody talk about it. Maybe I could quote somebody sometime. Try to work on that a different time, but there's just a lot going on. It says projects like TerraPower are awaiting fuel shipments. Anxious they may run out of time, the company was set to get its first fuel shipments from Russia, the world's only commercial HALEU supplier, which is so weird. How is that possible? That changed after the war in Ukraine. We are getting to the point where we need to see more urgency from the government, said Jeff Nevin, TerraPower's Director of External Affairs. There's a huge national interest to move quickly. We don't fully understand why that sense of urgency hasn't gotten to the Department of Energy in getting this material out. So, this is so funny. Department of Energy is like the key holder. They're the gatekeeper to all of this stuff, all of this massive amount of energy or different technologies that are kept away from the public. Even this guy right here, the TerraPower's Director of External Affairs, is telling us that the DOE is not letting this stuff get out, and they don't have a sense of urgency. Isn't that bizarre? Bottom line, the amount of HALEU the U.S. can get from its nuclear weapons stockpile is relatively small. It's going to need a bigger production line. And didn't the United States just say that we're going to start building more nuclear weapons and that we're going to buff our stockpile? How are we taking apart our stockpile but also increasing it at the same time? Is that why we're taking them apart? It's because we have new ones coming in? I feel like there's a lot of unsaid stuff going on here. The long-term solution is we have to have enrichment, said Jeff Chamberlain, the acting principal assistant deputy administrator for Defense Nuclear Non-Proliferation. Even if we downblended all that material tomorrow, we couldn't supply the demonstration needs of all the advanced reactor companies the U.S. had staged right now. And then here it's going to go into why we need this special nuclear fuel. And my question is, why don't we go to a different technology? Like that high school kid was doing a fusion reactor. All sorts of news has just come out about fusion too. We haven't talked, none of this stuff that I'm going to talk about at all is about fusion. But there's been a total takeoff of fusion as well. But that doesn't have cost, like high cost uranium, right? That's not a high ticket commodity that they can exploit. It's so frustrating that they do that. The United States currently gets about 20% of its power from nuclear energy. Inside the U.S. Energy Department, there's high interest to increase the percentage in the coming years because nuclear energy is reliable and doesn't produce climate pollution. We need some firm, clean baseload electricity. Nuclear power provides that. In order to meet our energy security needs and our climate goals, we do need to significantly... That doesn't even make sense. We need to increase our nuclear energy deployed. The nuclear power industry is increasingly looking to smaller reactors which run on HALEU. These reactors can last longer than conventional ones and fit into smaller places, making them more versatile and easier to set up. Before I go any further, I just want to quickly mention as well that for those of you that watched some of the previous ones where I've talked about World War II and Nazis and nuclear reactors, they had small nuclear reactors and they had miniaturized reactors in the 40s. And we talked about the Terra nuclear boring machine from Los Alamos in, what was that, the 60s? 50s, 60s, and 70s, they worked on that. And that was a small reactor. So here we are in 2024, and we're just now having this 50-year-old. If you want to go back to the Germans, that's 80 years old. 80-year-old technology that we're finally being able to give out. How nuclear weapons turn into fuel for the small reactors of the future. The National Nuclear Security Administration is turning old nuclear warheads from the U.S. stockpile into fuel for the next generation of nuclear reactors. Here's how that process works. Nuclear weapons are dismantled. Decommissioned warheads that are no longer useful as tools of war are carefully dismantled at a highly classified federal facility. Materials are reduced in size and selected for melting. The dismantled materials are reduced in size, and scientists select the right elements to mix in a furnace at approximately 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Different grades of uranium are downblended. Highly enriched uranium is melted and mixed with depleted uranium. This part of the process is known as downblending, melting two enrichment levels of uranium to produce high-assay, low-enriched uranium known as HALEU. HALEU is shipped to the reactors. Once the HALEU is cooled, it's carefully placed into metal shipping containers and sent out in small modular nuclear reactors. The uranium for conventional reactors is enriched up to 5%, and HALEU is uranium enriched between 5 and 20%. Highly enriched uranium is anything more than 20% and is used in weapon or naval submarines. In other words, if conventional reactor uranium is Miller Lite and then highly enriched uranium is Everclear grain alcohol, HALEU is a nice cool glass of Belgian beer that strikes the balance between the two extremes, said Dan Laskowsko, Vice President of Corporate Communications at U.S.-based uranium enrichment company Centrus Energy. I thought that was such a weird analogy, comparing nuclear waste to alcohol, whatever. You can get more energy in smaller places, said Josh Jarrell, director of Idaho National Laboratory's Fuel Cycle Science and Technology Division. You can be more energy dense. You can make more effective fuel. Theoretically, we could generate electricity more economically. Centrus is one of two enrichment companies on the U.S. working to break America off its dependence on Russia, which supplies the vast amount of world's enriched uranium. Congress recently passed an import ban on Russian uranium, leading to a supply squeeze for both HALEU and fuel conventional reactors. After a lack of investment over decades, Centrus is aiming to restore a domestic enrichment capability with U.S. technology. To meet demand for the country's electricity and for its national security, Lestokow told CNN. It will take years to get there. The Energy Department estimated the advanced nuclear industry will need 40 tons of HALEU by 2030. Centrus is seeking funding from the DOE to expand its operations, but it can only enrich a little less than 1 ton per year. What will the country's leftover nuclear arsenal contribute? 6 tons by 2027. TerraPower's Navin said 6 tons is a great start, but far from his company's first core load, let alone other advanced nuclear projects in the U.S. But exactly how much highly enriched uranium the U.S. has is a classified secret, and there are a lot of interests competing for it, from national security to research nuclear reactors. But Congress recently directed the NNSA and Energy Department to prioritize converting America's old nuclear arsenal for advanced reactor fuel. That's interesting. So both the new warheads are competing with the new reactors. Within their possession, they have more than enough highly enriched uranium to make many, many, many tons of HALEU. And U.S. begins building first 4th-gen mobile nuclear reactor to power its project into the battlefields. And its Project Pale's object is to design, build, and demonstrate a prototype mobile nuclear reactor within 5 years. The Department of Defense broke ground on Idaho National Laboratory on the Project Peel transportable nuclear reactor. The microreactor is being manufactured by BWXT Advanced Technologies, Virginia, under a Strategic Capabilities Office initiative. The final reactor assembly is scheduled to begin in February 2026, and is likely that this will be the first ever Generation 4 nuclear reactor to produce electricity in the United States. The prototype reactor facility is designed to be transported within 20-foot shipping containers and tested at INL, according to a press release by the DoD. Project Pell or Pele, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's Pell because there's not a asterisk over the E or whatever. Team will construct a concrete shield structure at the test site next year in order to be ready for the project for reactor placement in 2026. Project Peel. In 2016, the Defense Science Board identified energy as a critical enabler of future military operations. It noted that battlefield energy use will likely increase significantly over the next few decades. Therefore, the DoD's Strategic Capabilities Office launched Project Pale, named after the Hawaiian goddess of fire and power, to develop a fourth-generation nuclear microreactor to deliver energy to support remote and austere environments. Fascinating. Sounds very familiar. Further, in 2022, the DoD decided to proceed with the program specifying the need for a high-temperature, gas-cooled HTGR mobile microreactor able to produce 1 to 5 megawatts for more than 3 years without refueling. 2 designs had initially been selected, one from BWXT Advanced Technologies and a second from X Energy. Finally, BWXT's microreactor was selected for development by the DoD's SCO. Project Peel's objective is to design, build, and demonstrate a prototype nuclear reactor within 5 years. It is led by the SCO collaboration with Department of Nuclear Energy, Department of Energy, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as well as industry partners. Upon arrival at the INL, the microreactor will be transported by truck to the test site and positioned within concrete shield structure. Piping and electrical wiring will tie the reactor to INL's specialized electric microgrid. Once the reactor's final safety review is completed, Pele Project will then proceed within the initial test and evaluation plan. We are thrilled to move beyond the era of PowerPoint advanced reactors. Jeff Watson, Project Pele, however you pronounce it, program manager. Our tight partnership with INL and Department of Energy Idaho Operations Office is leading the way forward, not just for manufacturing advanced reactors, but also for regulating them in an efficient and safe manner. Dr. John Wagner, INL director, said, "We anticipate Pell will be among the first of a new generation of advanced experimental reactors hosted here before the end of the decade, so they expect many, many more to come. The reactor is expected to operate for a minimum of 3 years at the lab and will help demonstrate the use of clean, reliable, transportable nuclear power to help meet the increasing energy demands at military bases across the country," according to a press release by the Office of Nuclear Energy. It further mentions that BWXT will leverage the learning from Project Pale to advance a civil-focused BANR microreactor, which is being supported by Department of Energy's Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program. I'll also throw out there that we've already read about China doing their nuclear reactor for their moon base, their solar moon base, lunar moon base. And so that's going to be interesting. It seems that we have multiple different types of technologies all competing. It's going to be quite interesting. So I talked about the China base. Here we go with Some more information on that. China plans to build moon base at lunar South Pole by 2035. China has revealed that its moon base plans will be rolled out in 2 distinct phases, eventually creating a series of nodes on the lunar surface and in orbit. The initial roadmap for International Lunar Research Station, ILRS, jointly led by China and Russia, was unveiled in June 2021. The pair stated plans to build a basic robotic moon base through 5 super heavy lift rockets from 2030 to 2035. China has now taken the lead in the project and revealed more advanced 2-phase plans for the ILRS and Second International Deep Space Exploration Conference in the Chinese province of Anhui on September 5th. The first phase will be completed around 2035 near the lunar South Pole, and an extended model will be built by 2050, according to Hu Hanhu, chief designer of Chinese Deep Space Exploration Project, speaking at the media event. The extended model will be a comprehensive lunar station network that utilizes lunar orbit stations as a central hub and the South Pole Station as its primary base. It will include exploration nodes on the lunar equator and far side of the moon. Further details include ILRS being powered by solar, radioisotope, and nuclear generators. Further infrastructure will be moon, Earth, and high-speed lunar surface communication networks. Lunar vehicles like a hopper, an unmanned long-range vehicle, and pressurized and unpressurized crew rovers. Notably, Wu also stated that the extended ILRS model would help lay the foundation for future crewed landings on Mars. China has been attracting partners for the ILRS. During the conference, Senegal became the 13th country to sign up for the project. Interesting. Meanwhile, NASA is leading Artemis, a parallel but separate program to return people to the moon. Both China and NASA aim to put astronauts on the moon before the end of the decade, which Artemis keeps on getting put back, keeps on getting postponed over and over. So that was really just a quick update on some of the nuclear stuff. That wasn't even all of it. I just found that stuff to be really interesting because we've talked about so much of it before in so many different ways. I mean, it's hard to fully give a presentation about some of this stuff because of how far back it goes. I mean, we talked about stuff 80 years ago. I'm happy to do it, and I'm glad that you guys enjoy it and that you listen. I just wanted to congratulate everybody again on listening to this podcast and for challenging yourself to get out there and learn new stuff. So with that, we've got something really weird. Third state of existence between life and death confirmed by scientists. In science fiction movies like Frankenstein and Reanimator, human bodies are revived, existing in a strange state between life and death. While this may seem like pure fantasy, a recent study suggests that a third state of existence might actually be present in modern biology. According to the researchers, this third state occurs when the cells of a dead organism continue to function after its death, sometimes gaining new capabilities they never had while the organism was alive. Amazingly, if further experiments on cells from dead animals, including humans, prove this ability, it could even change the definition of legal death. The study, published in the journal Physiology, was led by Professor Peter Noble from University of Washington in Seattle, and Alex Povgitsin from the City of Hope National Medical Center in Duarte, California. Life and death are traditionally viewed as opposites, the researchers wrote in an article for The Conversation. But the emergence of new multicellular life forms from the cells of a dead organism introduces a third state that lies beyond traditional boundaries of life and death. In this third state, certain cells when given nutrients, oxygen, bioelectricity, or biochemical signals, have the capacity to transform into new multicellular organisms, exhibiting new functions even after death. The researchers reviewed recent studies showing the incredible capability of cells to reorganize and take on new forms after the death of the organism. In 2021, U.S. scientists found that skin cells from dead frogs could adapt in a lab environment and spontaneously form multicellular organisms, actual living machines called Xenobots. While most machines are constructed from material like steel and plastic, which can degrade or break over time and have harmful side effects, living systems made from self-renewing and biocompatible materials would avoid those negative consequences. Those Xenobots displayed behaviors far beyond their original biological purpose, using hair-like structures called cilia to move through their surroundings. They also proved adept at material collection, information, recording, self-healing, and limited replication. Similarly, other researchers discovered that human lung cells could self-organize into tiny multicellular organisms known as anthrorobots. Anthrorobots range in size from the width of a human hair to the tip of a sharpened pencil. Remarkably, these multicellular robots are designed to self-assemble and have demonstrated a pronounced healing effect on other cells. These anthrorobots could not only move independently, but also repair themselves and heal damaged nerve cells nearby. They have shown capabilities surpassing those of the Xenobots, addressing critical questions about cellular assembly and cooperation in the body, and the potential for cells to be reassembled into different structures for varied functions. The experts point to these examples as evidence of new cellular functions that don't exist during life, illustrating cellular changes in unexpected ways. However, how exactly these cells function in the third state after an organism dies remains a mystery. One possible explanation, reminiscent of Frankenstein-style ideas, involves a hidden system of electrical circuits that reanimates the cells. These channels and pumps may generate electrical signals that allow cells to communicate and perform specific functions like growth and movement, shaping the structure of the new organism they form. Whether cells enter this third state depends on several factors, including environmental conditions such as temperature and energy availability. Access to fuel and the ability to metabolize that energy also plays a crucial role in whether cells can survive and continue functioning post-mortem. Other variables like the organism's age, health, sex, species type, and also influence whether cells can enter the third state. The research team suggests that these factors shape the post-mortem landscape, determining whether or not cells can persist in this unique state. The research opens up unexplored frontiers in biology that could one day bring animal cells and potentially human cells into this third state. However, whether this future will reassemble something out of Reanimator, where reanimated tissue leads to catastrophic consequences, remains to be seen. In the 1980s cult film, a medical student discovers how to bring human tissue back to life, with dire and violent results. This third state not only sheds light on the remarkable adaptability of cells, but also opens up possibilities for innovative treatments. For instance, anthrorobots could be created from a person's own living tissue to deliver medication without triggering an immune response. Each anthrorobot starts as a single cell from the adult donor's trachea, equipped with cilia that facilitate movement. Researchers at the New Jersey Institute of Technology developed conditions to maximize the motility, observing various shapes and movement types, marking a significant feature of the biorobotics platform. These engineered anthrobots, when introduced into the body, could dissolve arterial plaque in patients with arteriosclerosis or help clear excess mucus in those with cystic fibrosis. They are biodegradable and safe with limited lifespan and strictly laboratory-bound existence, eliminating concerns of external exposure or uncontrolled proliferation. Notably, these multicellular organisms have a limited lifespan, breaking down naturally after 4 to 6 weeks. This built-in kill switch prevents the risk of potentially harmful cell growth. The research has the potential to transform regenerative medicine, redefine legal death, provides insights into life's physiological limits, paralleling inquiries into embryogenesis. To sum it all up, gaining a deeper understanding of how certain cells can continue to function and transform into multicellular organisms after an organism's death, the third state holds potential for advancing both personalized and preventative medicine. Stay tuned. This field of biology is getting very interesting indeed. And here we're going to end it on this one. For those of you guys who listen to this podcast and you think goes for anybody, not just you guys, and they think, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. One person can't make a change in the system, and you could not be so wrong. And let me give you an example of that. That's kind of funny, but at the same time, and like semi-infuriating, but also kind of comical at the same time. So let's see what that is. U.S. cave systems, bats, and insects faced existential threat. A discarded bag of Cheetos. Full bag of Cheeto snack left in a cave occasioned National Park Service to educate public about the delicate ecosystem. A full bag of Cheetos, discarded by a subterranean visitor to the Big Room in Carlsbad Cavern National Park in New Mexico, has led to the U.S. National Park Service to issue a warning that discarded food could have a huge impact on a cave's delicate and at-risk ecosystem. At the scale of human perspective, a spilled snack bag may seem trivial, but to the life of the cave, it can be world-changing. The park said in its post about the garbage that was recently discovered there, threatening the balance of the unique cave system environment. The processed corn, softened by the humidity of the cave, formed the perfect environment to host microbial life and fungi. Cave crickets, mites, spiders, and flies soon organize into a temporary food web, dispersing the nutrients to the surrounding cave and formations. Molds spread higher up the nearby surfaces, fruit die, stink, and continue the cycle. The park says that eating and drinking anything other than plain water attracts animals into the cavern, home to 17 bat species numbering between 400,000 and 800,000 bats, including the Brazilian free-tailed bat that has so far avoided the white nose syndrome that has been devastating U.S. bat colonies. The park rangers spent 20 minutes removing molds and foreign debris from surfaces inside the cave. The discarded bag of Cheetos, the park said, had introduced microbial life and molds that were not part of the natural ecosystem and were completely avoidable. The delicacy of cave ecosystems is well known due to the dependence on limited food sources and being acutely susceptible to disruptions from human activity. The Park Service reminded visitors in a follow-up post about the principle of leave no trace to disposing waste. Contrary to popular belief, the cave is not a big trash can. But rangers, it continued, still pick up trash. Sometimes this can be a gum wrapper or a tissue. Other times it can be, unfortunately, mean human waste, spit, or chewing tobacco. The post pointed out that every step that a visitor to the cave makes a fine trail of lint, but other impacts are completely avoidable, like a full snack bag dropped off the trail in the Big Room. To the owner of the snack bag, the impact is likely incidental, but to the ecosystem of the cave, it had a huge impact. So that's just an example of how one person's actions can have a huge impact, and why it's important for all of us to try to do the best we can within reason for the whole world. I mean, we've talked about biologically how that helps you. I mean, that's kind of selfish, though, to do things for yourself so that your own cells are okay. But not only that, take care of all the other planet by taking care of your surroundings and yourself. I mean, it's like a win-win. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that we can make big changes individually, even if they're bad. They can also be good too, but this is just an example of that. So I'll see you guys again. I'm looking forward to making more stuff. Adios, be safe out there.
Why everybody wanna be like me? Well, you know you can't be like me. Check the mirror, see the reflection. Ain't nobody quite like me. See, I'm perfection. Unique vibe, can't duplicate. Swag is so cool, every day I celebrate. No copycats, just one original. Couldn't hide out even if I wasn't visible. Pull it in the breeze, fresher than the air. No comparison, I'm beyond comparing. And you know I ain't never sharing. Mean girls can't sit with me with what you're wearing. Pretty like a sunset, cool like the night. In my own spotlight, shining so bright. No need for validation, I am the prize. In the world of clones, I'm still gonna rise. Why everybody wanna be like me? Well, you know you can't be like me. Why everybody wanna be like me? Well, you know you can't be like me. Any, many, miny, mo. I'm so fine, oh that I know. Why you wanna mess with me? You know you not getting with me. I don't need to speak, you ain't messing with my energy. No other like me, a true work of art. Cool, pretty masterpiece from the start. I stand tall, I stand proud. No need to follow, I'm the leader of the crowd. Every step, every move, I'm so divine. Walk into the room, they be like, dang, she fine. Confidence on lock, in my own league. How can you be hating when you can't be me? How you keep talking, you can't be what I be. You can't move how I move, you can't see what I see. I got the sauce, they all want the recipe. It feel good to know there's only one me.